Hey guys, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're keeping safe and well. So we're going to be talking about creating content, but actually creating content that turns into action. How do you even go about doing that? Well, I'm going to be addressing that in this particular video, and I want to make sure that you are getting to grips with some key fundamentals as always, and things that you should be doing as well when it comes to creating content that turns attention into action. Because if you don't, well, it's all very well and good creating this pretty stuff, this super cool, imaginative, oh my goodness, yeah, eye-catching things. However, but if you're not allowing that eye-catching element to actually be stopped, taken in, and actually understood, well then why did you create it in the first place? It's not going to make sense to your audience, it's not going to make sense to you, and the results that you're getting aren't actually going to be the results that you're looking for. So in order to make sure that you are creating content that turns attention into action, you need to make sure that you actually follow the key things that I'm going to be sharing with you in this particular video. Now, before you get stuck into it, as always, stick around to the very end because I've got some key principles that I want to make sure that you go ahead and take away and really use to your advantage, because these will allow you to not only stand true to your standards and beliefs, but it will allow you to make better connections with all those who you want to be making better connections with. And it will also help you to understand why representation really does matter, because it is super key. And also know that you are more than what you see. So allow others to see you. Allow others to see you as not only being you, but as your brand that allows your awareness to actually start elevating in a way that you're actually looking for, to position you as the brand that you know you are. So before we get into it, as always, please make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you go ahead and also share this with other like-minded entrepreneurs, business owners in the service-based industry, so that they get to grips as to how they can also elevate within their own brands. So without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. So as I said, we are going to be talking about creating content that turns attention into action. Now, yes, there are always going to be many ways to go ahead and do this. So how do you do it in a way that's congruent to your standards, your beliefs? Well, you pay attention as to all these things, the three things in fact, that will adhere to what it is that you're about when it comes to your brand. So key things that you need to know is branding 101 tips, okay? You know, I've been sharing them a few times now. So branding 101 tip that you need to make sure that you are knowing, especially when it comes to creating your content, so that it allows your attention to turn into action. Know first and foremost that creating your content isn't just about being seen. It's about building authority. It's about building the knowledge and information to allow others to also understand what it is that you do and why it is that you're doing it. You're creating factual value points to the point where they now are educated as to who you are and why it is that you are doing what you're doing. That's the first thing. The second thing is that visibility alone won't equal impact. There's more to it. Again, you have to reinforce your visibility. You can't just show up looking pretty and looking absolutely fabulous if there's no meaning behind it, simply because people need to understand you. So help them and invite them into who you are and what it is that you're about. It's almost like thinking about branding with brains and not just beauty. So thinking about how it is that you, with your strategy, you with the intention to help others, actually also shines through just as much as the visibility element. So back it, reinforce it with all this information so that the message that you're trying to share actually starts landing with your audience that you're trying to be working with as well. So key things to always remember, and please don't ever forget them. Now let's keep moving, right? So the first thing that you really want to make sure that you're doing, and just off the back of what I've just shared with you, really, you want to make sure that you're creating content that makes people feel and stop, not just glance and scroll. You want them to stop to take in what it is that you are saying, what it is that you're doing, and equally how it is that you can really help people, remind people. In fact, sometimes you have to have several touch points to be able to really keep that memory in mind for your audience. They don't live with you. They don't know you like that. So help them to know and understand who it is that you are and why it is that you do what you do. Now, the second thing that you should do as well, this is a point where there's a few business owners out here who tend to get this just a tiny bit wrong, in the sense where they feel that they'll have to jump onto a trend that yes, is trending. However, it has no relevance to who it is that they are or why it is that they're doing what they're doing. If you are using a trend that has no relevance to it, what it is that you do, don't do it, because it's not going to land well specifically for your audience. Yes, they'll see it, however, they're not going to be staying. You remember I was talking to you about point number 1, right? We don't want people to just scroll past and say, oh, nice, cool. No, we want them to stop, we want them to stare, and we want them to pay attention to what it is that you have to say. So, with that in mind, make sure that your content that you're creating is relevant and resonates, and not irrelevant and misaligned. Okay? So, in order to make it relevant and resonate, what do you need to do? Well, you tap into the commonality elements. You tap into a little nostalgia. You think about how old are your audience? What is it they like doing? Where is it that you typically find them? You tap into the commonality elements. So for example, if your audience is all in the age of, let's say, born in the 80s, born in the 90s, they're going to have some relevance to particular situations that happened during that time. So maybe pick out topical issues, maybe even pick out fun, nostalgic times. Maybe thinking about when it was all about exploration growing up, or when it was all about making sure that, you know what, you got outside and you really played. Maybe your parents or your guardians, whoever was helping you to grow up, didn't really mind you going out to play for all hours of the day, and literally you come home at dinner time, right? Versus what it's like today. Today it's all about kids staying inside, kids, on their computer games, or just not going out to explore, and I get why they wouldn't. However, that whole difference right there is something where somebody could really have a commonality factor and really resonate with, and really draw back on their own memories and really relate to. Help your audience to relate to what it is that you're doing, so that they also come on this journey with you as to finding out what your brand is about. Because if you don't do that, well then again, this is how you start misaligning with who they are. And this is how you start creating content that doesn't make any sense to them. So why would they stick around? You wouldn't, so why should they? Now, this third thing, and I've actually created a video that taps into a little bit about what this third thing is essentially about. But this third thing is a huge thing that a lot of business owners, or the average business owner in fact, will trip up on, because they won't take that time to do it. And they won't take that time to just be able to really pinpoint what it is that you want from your audience. And if they did this, if they really encouraged this action right here, especially, this is how we start now building on the action, they would start seeing the results that they're actually looking for. Now, what I'm talking about is the idea of making sure that you're creating content that allows people to want to lean in and learn more, and not confuse or disconnect. So how do you make people want to lean in and learn more versus not confuse or disconnect? Well, you tap into those nostalgic moments, but you also create a level of comfort that draws people in and doesn't repel people by all the jargon from your craft, or by all the technical terminology that they don't yet know about. Keep it on a language level that they get and understand. Me, for example, as a branding specialist, I know my craft. I know the terminology that branding can include. However, I don't always use it, simply because I know a lot of people, especially the average Joe, won't actually get that terminology. So I speak to people in a language that they get and understand. I talk about standing out above competition, because typically in the business world, that's what you're trying to do. I talk about making sure that you're building a strategy or a distinctive look that allows you to separate yourself from others. I also talk about the idea of connecting with other people that they actually want to work with, because let's face it, right? There are many people in business who are actually working with those who they don't actually want to work with. So I resonate using language that people get. What do you do for yourself? How is it that you can actually make others to know and understand that with these things in mind, with your content in mind, the value facts that you're sharing, the information, but more specifically, entertaining them by drawing them in on a nostalgic element, but also on either a nostalgic element or commonality factor, that really gets them to literally get it, how are you making sure that they don't disconnect? Really allow yourself to draw into those points, especially when it comes to your business. Make it super relevant. Allow people to understand that these are the things that your business and your brand is about. This is how you help them, simply because you remember way back when we're talking about technology, or when we were in an era where playing outside was a thing to do versus being stuck indoors and literally being on a computer for pretty much the majority of the day. Talk about those factors that people get and understand, so that they really, really do resonate with what it is that you're about. And also on that note, I just want to add in here as well, do you remember before I've always talked to you guys about the idea of your unique human point? Draw into it right here for this point. Really use it and utilize it to your advantage, especially when it comes to creating content that's not only attractive, but it also actually creates action. And on the other note that a lot of people tend to miss out on, and it's a simple thing to do, create a call to action. The key is in the title, right? So create a call to action that you want to make sure that somebody does off the back of either reading your content, watching your content, or taking in your, however they may be taking in your content. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to follow you on whatever social media platform that you're showcasing this on? Do you want them to reach out to you and actually maybe even book in a call with you? Or do you want them to download a guide or a cheat sheet or whatever that may be for yourself? And by the way, folks, so common content forms that you can actually think about. There's long form and short form, and what that means is long form is where it's long videos like this, or short form is essentially where you have reels or shorts or even static posts or carousels. Now, however you choose to share your content, tap into all those key things that you need to be making sure that you are aware of when it comes to creating actual content that is attractive, that turns attention into action. Because once again, you're not creating this content just to look pretty. You want to make sure that it's doing something for yourself. So give it the attention that it deserves, right? And actually use it to your advantage. And speaking of advantage, here's what I want you to do now. Click on the first link that's underneath this video, and I want to make sure that you are tapping into these key principles, because that's what you're going to be getting when you do so. These key principles will essentially allow you to make sure that with your content in mind, you're creating content that obviously not only attracts but equally draws that attention to your brand in a way that's congruent to your standards and your beliefs. Because I'm sure you'll agree that if that doesn't happen, that's when you start disconnecting with your audience, and that's when you start misaligning with all those you want to be working with, and essentially that's when you start creating content that's literally just a scroll past kind of a thing. So tap into these key principles to know and understand how you can make sure that you're creating content that is congruent to your standards and beliefs, starts making better connections with the audience that you actually want to be working with, and does so in a way that allows you to start elevating your authority even more. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you on the other side.